Well, thank you, Gentry, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to In Touch on WCCI and WCCIRadio.com. In Touch airs weekday mornings at 11:40 a.m. And coming up this weekend, of course, it's Memorial Day weekend. And with that in mind, there's a special book signing that's going to take place on Saturday the 23rd from 10 a.m. until noon at the Novel Bloom here in Savannah. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about that and meet the author and the subject here as they're in the studio. We've got Dr. Dave Gilliland with us. Also, Paul Mayer is here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Brian. It's great to be here again.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about this book entitled God Was Watching Over Me. It's your story, Paul, about your days in Vietnam, your capture by the Vietcong, and your escape.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about that coming up. But let's talk about the process and kind of the motives and everything behind the book, because I know you told us in prepping for this interview, you've told your story before.
Yes.
Now it's finally going to be in print.
It is. It's been coming for years. I mean, it happened back in 1969, and here we are, and I'm going to be 83 years old in June, and I'm finally got it in print. It's coming out, and everybody will be able to see it and read it. I told the story at the museum on it was Veterans Day a couple years ago. Had a room filled with about 300 people. And I told my story, how I was captured, how I escaped, and came back to see my family again. And it was a very emotional story. The book is emotional. There's a lot of emotion.
Definitely.
And I got a standing ovation for the first time in my life ever at the time. It was amazing. And people keep telling me, Paul, write that down in a book, get it out. Let's have something we can sit there and read. And finally, finding a person who can do the writing for me, best buddy I've ever found in a long time.
Well, that's nice of you to say, Paul.
I mean, you did a fantastic job, and the book is great. It's my whole life story. It starts in 1943 when I was born. In those days, we didn't play cowboys and Indians. We played soldiers. Me and my little buddies on the street, we played soldiers all the time. And I was always wanting to go into the Army when I got out of high school and that. And by golly, I did. And went around the world many times with the Army, and ended up in Vietnam and put this story together. Unfortunately, it was a rough time, okay? I'm going to read a couple paragraphs from the book right now on the day I was captured, okay? One day in mid-July of 1969 is reported by the engineers that had poked a hole in the priest's hooch. I was going down to the village of Tam Hep and helping them. I built a school, I built an orphanage, and a church for them. And it was my responsibility as the coordinator to make sure that things synced and worked for them. Well, I went down there. The sun, it was a Sunday morning, like it always was in Vietnam, and it was hot and humid, and as usual, I was, in a constant state of sweat and discomfort. I set off on a short drive to the priest's hooch in my Jeep. As I entered the village, nothing to me seemed unusual. Looking back, however, I should have known that something was very different. There was no villagers, there was no children, there was no priest. It was eerily quiet. None of this registered in my mind at the time. When I arrived, I saw the hole in the back of the hut. I drove my Jeep around the back of the hut, backing it up to the hole that needed to be repaired. almost immediately, I was jumped by a contingent of Vietcong. There was at least 40 of them, dressed in black uniforms, straw hats, and armed with AK-47 assault rifles. They screamed various Vietnamese epithets at me and butted me with their rifles, kicked me, beat me, bashed my face and body, and inflicted as much pain as they possibly could upon me. The entire group swarmed me. I tried to fight back, but they had me pinned tight to the ground. The more I tried to fight back, the worse the beating got. Each passing second brought more gut-wrenching pain. They screamed every word of Vietnamese profanity with each passing second. The only thing that I remembered thinking was that this was it. I was going to die right here on that spot. It was like a blur of torture and beat down upon me. At some point, I blacked out and woke up hours later in the priest's hooch. I was being guarded by a single Viet Cong. They had let me live so far up to this point. In my mind, I knew that if they didn't kill me, they would be sending me to the infamous Hanoi Hilton, the notorious POW camp where the Viet Cong inflicted unimaginable torture and cruelty. I tried to find a way to escape. I couldn't die leaving my wife Charlene, my toddler son Paul, and my newly born daughter Paula, whom I had of course not ever seen since she was just been born while I was over there in June. And that's enough for you right now.
Wow. Wow, very moving. Now let's fast forward to now. A few months ago anyway, how did you connect up with Dave, who ended up being the author here?
This was a great story because I'm real good friends with our past mayor, Val Gunderson, and I asked if his wife was still the principal at the high school, and he said, sure, why? And I said, well, I'm thinking about maybe getting a student to ghostwrite my story for me, and he called me back the next day. He says, I got something much better for you. And he told me he found him, and he says, he wants your phone number, and he wants to call you today. So I gave him the phone number. He called me, and we hooked up together. The next day, wasn't it?
Yeah. The next day we met for breakfast here at Sunshine Cafe.
Yes, and started this project.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Dave, let's get your thoughts of the process and how it made you feel when you were hearing these stories and writing them down, because I'm sure you were seeing raw emotion coming out of Paul.
Right. Well, when Val was telling the story about needing someone to write this Paul's story, I told him, I might be able to do that because my old life was, excuse me, high school English teacher way back in the day. So, as Paul mentioned, we connected, and throughout the interviewing that I did with Paul, I was trying to picture all of it in my mind, and especially the part in his life about being captured and escaping, and really then the follow-up to the story is the PTSD that Paul experienced for decades.
Over 50 years.
After the time he was in Vietnam. So that was the part that was especially moving to me, his story of how he tried to work through that. But as he just mentioned, it took 50 years for him to get through it, and I'm not sure if he's totally through it now. I've never really asked him that. But it was a privilege to be able to write the story and to put to word what I consider to be a hero's story.
Nice. So on the 23rd from 10 until noon at Naval Bloom, you'll both be there, and books will be for sale, and you'll sign them, right?
Exactly.
Everyone who gets a book will get a veteran's medallion, so that'll be a little extra incentive.
Nice. And it'll be really nice, I think, for people to kind of put a name and a face together and get to talk to you, Paul,
Yes.
and get to meet the author, Dave, as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. Anything else? Any final thoughts? I mean, we could probably talk for 2 hours and
Oh,
just
yes.
scratch the surface.
Right,
But
right.
as far as the
Yeah.
book goes, we want people to have,
We
you know.
took, yeah, we took the book even further than just Vietnam and that. I mean, it started with me being born in Chicago and playing soldiers all the time.
And how he met his beautiful wife.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah, that was a nice story too, because in 1963 I was stationed in Verdun, France, and my mother was gravely ill, so they sent me home on a compassionate reassignment to Savannah Army Depot, but then to go to Chicago, take care of the funeral arrangements and that. And that first day here in Savannah, I went out to the depot. The guy said, "Hey, Sarge, do you want to go down and get something to eat?" I said, "I'm always up to eat." And we went down to the newsstand, which is the bank building now. And I sat in the booth with the guys, and my wife, or wife-to-be, Charlene, was behind the counter working as a waitress, and she looked at me and she turns to her girlfriend and says, "I'm going to marry that man." A year later, she did. We've been together for 62 years now.
Love at first sight.
Yes.
What if you wouldn't have been hungry that day and stayed back
I
at
know,
base?
I know. I miss out on a whole life of fun, you know.
Dave, do you have any final thoughts here? I mean, I just want to urge people to come out and meet you guys and purchase a book and find out more.
Yes.
Read that story, because
Right.
you guys were gracious to give me a chance to see
Yes.
one of the copies of the early manuscripts,
Right.
and it's awesome. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, come out on the 23rd, Novel Bloom, from 10 to 12. Get a cup of coffee or other types of great drinks they have there, and help us celebrate Memorial Day weekend.
Paul, thank you for sharing your story not only with us but with everyone, and we wish you the very best.
You are very welcome.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Yeah, that was good.
And that's today's
All right.
In Touch. In Touch airs weekday mornings at 11:40 a.m. Paul Mayer and Dr. Dave Gilliland have been our guests here on New Hit Country.